Hiya two children, it's Mr Yeardsley. We're going to continue Fantastic Mr Fox. We were part way through the next chapter, weren't we? Part way through Bunce's giant storehouse. Suddenly, as though springs had been released into their legs, the three hungry small foxes and the ravenous hungry badger sprang forward to grab the luscious food. "Stop!" ordered Mr Fox. "This is my party, so I shall do the choosing." The others fell back, licking their chops. Mr Fox began prowling around the storehouse, examining the glorious display with an expert eye. A thread of saliva slid down one side of his jaw and hung suspended in mid-air, then snapped. "We mustn't overdo it," he said. "Mustn't give the game away. Mustn't let them know what we've been up to. We must be neat and tidy and take just a few of the choicest morsels. So, to start with, we shall have 4 plump young ducks." He took them from the shelf. "Oh, how lovely and fat they are. No wonder Bunce gets a special price for them in the market. All right, Badger, lend me a hand. Get them down. You children can help as well. There we go. Goodness me, look how your mouths are watering. And now, I think we'd better have a few geese. 3 will be quite enough. We'll take the biggest. Oh my, you'll never see finer geese than these in a king's kitchen. Gently does it, that's the way. And what about a couple of nice smoked hams? I adore smoked ham, don't you, Badger? Fetch me that step ladder, will you please?" Here's doing some sorting up the step ladder. Mr Fox climbed up the ladder and handed down 3 magnificent hams. "And do you like bacon, Badger?" "I'm mad about bacon," cried Badger, dancing with excitement. "Let's have a side of bacon, that big one, up there." "And carrots, Dad," to the smallest of the 3 small foxes. "We must take some of those carrots." "Don't be a twerp," said Mr Fox. "You know we never eat things like that." "It's not for us, Dad, it's for the rabbits. They only eat vegetables." "My goodness me, you're right," cried Mr Fox. "What a thoughtful little fellow you are. Take 10 bunches of carrots." Soon all this lovely loot was lying in a neat heap upon the floor. The small foxes crouched close, their noses twitching, their eyes shining like stars. "And now," said Mr Fox, "we shall have to borrow from our friend Bunce 2 of those useful push carts over in the corner." He and Badger fetched the push carts, and the ducks and geese and hams and bacon were loaded onto them. Quickly, the push carts were lowered through the hole in the floor. There they are, with the mountain of food. The animals slid down after them. Back in the tunnel, Mr Fox again pulled the floorboards very carefully into place so that no one could see they'd been moved. "My darlings," he said, pointing to 2 of the 3 small foxes, "take a cart each and run back as fast as you can to your mother. Give her my love and tell her we are having guests for dinner. The badgers, the moles, the rabbits and the weasels. Tell her it must be a truly great feast, and tell her the rest of us will be home as soon as we've got one more little job done." "Yes, Dad, right away, Dad," they answered, and they grabbed a trolley each and went rushing off down the tunnel. They are rushing the trolleys down the tunnel. Chapter 14. Badger has doubts. "Just one more visit," cried Mr Fox. "And I'll bet I know where that'll be," said the only small fox now left. He was the smallest fox of them all. "Where?" asked Badger. "Well," said the smallest fox, "we've been to Boggis, and we've been to Bunce, but now we haven't been to Bean. It must be Bean." "You were right," said Mr Fox, "but what you don't know is which part of Bean's place we are about to visit." "Which?" said both together. "Aha!" said Mr Fox. "Just you wait and see." They were digging as they talked. The tunnel was going forward fast. Suddenly Badger said, "Doesn't this worry you just a tiny bit, Foxy?" "Worry me?" asked Mr Fox. "What? All this stealing?" Mr Fox stopped digging and stared at Badger as though he'd gone completely dotty. "My dear old fairy frump," he said, "do you know anyone in the whole world who wouldn't swipe a few kit chickens if his children were starving to death?" There was a short silence while Badger thought deeply about this. "You are far too respectable," said Mr Fox. "There's nothing wrong with being respectable," Badger said. "Look," said Mr Fox, "Boggis and Bunce and Bean are out to kill us. You realise that, I hope?" I do, Foxy, I do indeed, said the gentle Badger. But we're not going to stoop to their level. We don't want to kill them. I should hope not indeed, said Badger. And there they are, chatting. We wouldn't dream of it, said Mr Fox. We shall simply take a little food here and there to keep us and our families alive, right? I suppose we'll have to, said Badger. If they want to be horrible, let them, said Mr Fox. We down here are decent, peace-loving people. Badger laid his head on one side and smiled at Mr Fox. Foxy, he said, I love you. Thank you, said Mr Fox. And now let's get on with the digging. 5 minutes later, Badger's front paws hit against something flat and hard. What on earth is this? He said. It looks like a solid stone wall. He and Mr Fox scraped away the soil. It was a wall, but it was built of bricks, not stones. The wall was right in front of them, blocking their way. Now, who in the world would build a wall under the ground? Asked Badger. Very simple, said Mr Fox. It's the wall of an underground room, and if I'm not mistaken, it's exactly what I'm looking for. Chapter 15. Bean's secret cider cell. Mr Fox examined the wall carefully. He saw the cement between the bricks was old and crumbly, so he loosened a brick without much trouble and pulled it away. Suddenly, out from the hole where the bricks had been, there popped a small, sharp face with whiskers. Go away! It snapped. You can't come in here. It's private. Good Lord, said Badger. It's Rat. You saucy beast, said Mr Fox. I should have guessed we'd found you down here somewhere. Go away, shrieked Rat. Go on, beat it. This is my private pitch. Shut up, said Mr Fox. I will not shut up, shrieked the Rat. This is my place. I got here first. Mr Fox gave a brilliant smile, flashing his white teeth. There's Rat. My dear Rat, he said softly, I am a hungry fellow, and if you don't hop it quickly, I shall eat you up in one gulp. Well, that did it. Rat popped back fast out of sight. Mr Fox laughed and began pulling more bricks out of the wall. When he'd made a biggish hole, he crept through it. Badger and the smallest fox followed him in. They found themselves in a vast, damp, gloomy cellar. This is it, cried Mr Fox. This is what? Said Badger. The place is empty. Where are the turkeys? Asked the smallest fox, staring into the gloom. I thought Bean was a turkey man. He is a turkey man, said Mr Fox, but we're not after turkeys now. We got plenty of food. Then what do we need, Dad? Take a good look round, said Mr Fox. Don't you see anything that interests you? Badger and the smallest fox peered into the half-darkness. As their eyes became accustomed to the gloom, they began to see what looked like a whole lot of big glass jars standing upon shelves around the floor. They went closer. They were jars. There were hundreds of them, and upon each one was written the word cider. The smallest fox leapt high in the air. Oh, Dad, he cried, look! What we found, it's cider. Exactly, said Mr Fox. Tremendous, shouted Badger. Bean's secret cider cellar, said Mr Fox. But go carefully, my dears. Don't make a noise. This cellar is right underneath the farmhouse itself. Cider, said Badger, is especially good for badgers. We take it as medicine, 1 large glass 3 times a day with meals and another at bedtime. It will make the feast into a banquet, said Mr Fox. While they were talking, the smallest fox had sneaked a jar off the shelf and had taken a gulp. Wow! He gasped. Wowee! You must understand, this was not the ordinary weak fizzy cider one buys in a shop. It was real stuff, a home-brewed fiery liquor that burned in your throat and boiled in your stomach. Ah! Gasped the smallest fox. This is some cider. Oh dear, not sure you should be drinking cider. That's quite enough of that, said Mr Fox, grabbing the jar and putting it up to his own lips. He took a tremendous gulp. It's miraculous, he whispered, fighting for breath. It's fabulous. It's beautiful. It's my turn, said Badger, taking the jar and tilting his head well back. The cider gurgled and bubbled down his throat. It's like melted gold, he gasped. Oh, Foxy, it's like drinking sunbeams and rainbows. You're poaching, shrieked Rat. Put that down at once. There'll be none left for me. Rat was perched upon the highest shelf in the cellar, peering out from behind a huge jar. There was a small rubber tube inserted in the neck of the jar, and Rat was using the tube to suck out the cider. You're drunk, said Mr Fox. Mind your own business, shrieked Rat, and if you great clumsy brutes come messing about in here, we'll all be caught. Get out and leave me to sip my cider in peace. At that moment, they heard a woman's voice calling out in the house above them. Hurry up and get the cider, Mabel, the voice called. You know Mr Bean doesn't like to be kept waiting, especially when he's been out all night in a tent. The animals froze. They stayed absolutely still, their ears pricked, their bodies tense. Then they heard the sound of a door being opened. The door was at the top of a flight of stone steps leading down from the house to the cellar. And now someone was starting to come down those steps. There's Rat. And I just wonder now if they're going to get caught. I hope not. Chapter 16 is called The Woman, and I'll read that tomorrow. Not too many days left reading this story, folks. Just remember, when I read again tomorrow, keep on smiling and remember the school motto. Take care. See you soon. Bye.